At my husband's funeral, everyone sat in silence, the smell of lilies heavy in the air. The lawyer cleared his throat, his voice cutting through the church like a knife. According to this will, he said, lifting the papers high, everything, house, land, money, goes to his mistress. Gasps filled the room. My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm. That wasn't the worst part. My only son, my flesh and blood, stood up, walked over to that woman, and hugged her tightly. "Mom," he whispered to her. "Finally, you'll take care of me." Everyone turned to look at me, waiting for me to cry, waiting for me to collapse, waiting for me to break. But I didn't. I simply smiled. Slowly, I reached into my black purse, pulled out a sealed envelope, and lifted it high. "This," I said, my voice louder than the whispers. "This is the real will." And right then the whole room froze. The mistress's smile faded, the lawyer blinked in shock, and my son's grip on her loosened. What they thought would be their victory had just turned into their nightmare. But before I tell you what was inside that envelope, let me introduce myself. My name is Margaret. I am 72 years old, and I live in Texas, USA. I'm a grandmother of 3, though you will soon see why that number matters in this story. Before we continue, make sure you like, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more of my stories, because trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing which part of the country you're in. Now, let me take you back. Because for you to understand how we reached this shocking moment, you need to know what my life was like before my husband's funeral. My husband, Richard, was a tall man with a voice that could charm anyone. He wasn't just my partner. He was my everything. We had been married for nearly 50 years. People in our town admired us. They said we were the perfect couple. Little did they know, perfection is often just a mask hiding deep cracks. When we first met, I was only 20. He was 27. He swept me off my feet with his laughter, his promises, his eyes that seemed to see right through me. I believed every word. I believed in forever. And for a while it was good. We had a son, William, who became the center of my world. I poured all my love into raising him, into building a home that felt safe. But as years passed, Richard grew distant. He traveled more. He stayed out late. He smelled of perfumes that weren't mine. I knew. A wife always knows. But I stayed silent because I told myself, this is marriage. You endure. You protect your child. The first real crack showed one winter evening. William was only 12 when he asked me, "Mom, why doesn't Dad eat with us anymore? Why does he always look at his phone?" I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. I smiled and said, "Daddy works hard for us. He loves us in his own way." But deep down, I feared I was raising a boy who would grow up blind to the kind of man his father really was. Years rolled on. Richard became bolder. He stopped hiding his affairs. He stopped pretending. I'd hear whispers from neighbors, see the pity in their eyes. And yet I stayed. For William. For the image of family. For the hope that one day, maybe he would change. But he didn't. Instead, he brought her. Her name was Linda. She was 30 years younger than me. Beautiful in a cruel way, with sharp red nails and lips that always curled in a smirk. She was everything I wasn't. And Richard flaunted her like a prize. The first time I saw them together was at the supermarket. She hung onto his arm like a teenager, and when she looked at me, she didn't flinch. She smiled, as if to say, "I've won." That night, I cried myself to sleep. But in the morning, I rose stronger. I told myself, if Richard wants to play this game, he will learn who I truly am. And so, I started preparing. But life has a way of throwing storms when you least expect them. One of the worst nights of my life came when William, now in his 20s, came home drunk. He shouted at me, accused me of being the reason his father was unhappy. He slammed his fist on the table and said, "Linda is kinder to me than you ever were." My heart shattered. My son, my only son, was turning against me. The very boy I had sacrificed everything for. But I didn't shout back. I didn't throw him out. I just looked him in the eye and said, "One day, you'll understand who truly loves you." Those words stayed with me. They became my anchor. When Richard's health began to fail, Linda never left his side. Not out of love, but out of greed. She wanted it all, his money, his house, his name. And she thought she had won because Richard, in his blindness, signed a will leaving her everything. But what she didn't know was that Richard had also signed another will years earlier. A will he made after surviving a car accident that nearly killed him. In that will, he left everything to me. And unlike the one Linda made him sign, this one was properly registered, sealed, and locked away in my safe. So, when the lawyer read Linda's version at the funeral, I wasn't surprised. I knew what was coming. What I didn't expect was for my own son to betray me so publicly, hugging her, calling her Mom. That cut deeper than any knife. But I didn't fall apart. I didn't scream. Instead, I smiled and lifted the envelope. The real will. The weapon that would change everything. What happened after I revealed it? Well, that's another storm entirely. Because the moment I placed that envelope on the table, Linda lunged forward like a wildcat, her red nails clawing at the paper. Gasps filled the church again as she shouted, "That's a fake. Don't believe her." But before anyone could move, the envelope slipped from my hand, landing on the floor. And that's when William, my son, stepped on it. His face was unreadable. He looked at me, then at Linda, then back at me. And with one slow motion, he bent down, picked up the envelope, and tore it open. The truth inside was about to burst into the light. The church went silent as William ripped the envelope open. The paper crackled in his trembling hands, every eye glued to him. My heart pounded, but my face remained calm. I had waited for this moment for years. His lips moved as he read, his eyes darting across the words. Then his voice broke the silence. "This will, it says everything goes to Mom." The word Mom caught in his throat. He glanced at Linda, whose face twisted with rage. Gasps and murmurs spread through the mourners like wildfire. Some looked relieved, some curious, but Linda looked like she could kill. "That's a lie," she shrieked, lunging forward. "He signed everything to me. I was his true love. That paper is a forgery." The lawyer, looking pale and shaken, adjusted his glasses and took the will from William. He studied the seal, the signature, the notary's stamp. His jaw tightened. "This is authentic," he said firmly. "This was signed years ago, properly filed and legally binding. Margaret is the rightful heir." The room erupted. Some clapped, some shook their heads, others whispered as if watching a play unfold. I stood still, my hands folded calmly in front of me, though inside I felt fire and sorrow mixed together. Linda screamed, "No. No, this isn't happening. Richard promised me, he promised." She turned to William, grabbing his arm. "You're on my side, aren't you? Tell them. Tell them your father loved me more than her." William's face was pale. His eyes darted between me and her. And then, in a voice that made my chest ache, he whispered, I don't know who to believe anymore." That broke me in ways I didn't show. My own son, so lost, so twisted by lies, that he couldn't even see the truth standing before him. But before I could speak, Linda did something no one expected. She grabbed the will out of the lawyer's hands and ran down the aisle of the church, her heels clicking furiously against the floor, her hair flying behind her. "Stop her," someone shouted. But she was fast, too fast. And William, my William, chased after her. My breath caught in my throat as I watched them disappear through the church doors, the will clutched in her fist, my son running behind her. I wanted to scream, to run after them myself, but my legs felt frozen. My friends tried to hold me back, whispering, "Let the police handle it." But I knew one thing for sure. If Linda destroyed that will, I would lose everything. Not just the house, the money, the land, but also the last proof of Richard's loyalty to me. And worse, I feared Linda would poison William's heart even more, turning him completely against me. The crowd in the church buzzed with chaos, voices rising in panic. I gripped the pew, forcing myself to stand tall. Then the doors slammed open again. William staggered back inside, his face pale, his hands shaking. And he said 6 words that made my blood run cold. "Linda, she's not coming back." All right, let's dive into Chapter 3. I'll give you around 1,000 words this time. Keep it suspenseful, with highs and lows, and close on another shocking cliffhanger. Chapter 3. When William whispered, "Linda, she's not coming back," the church erupted in gasps. Some people stood from their seats, craning their necks toward the doors as if she might burst in again at any second. My chest tightened, my knees went weak, and I had to grip the pew to keep myself steady. "What do you mean? She's not coming back?" I demanded, my voice sharp as a blade. William's face was pale, his eyes glassy. He swallowed hard before speaking again. She ran into the street. A car did swerved. She dropped the will. And then, his voice cracked. She ran. She just kept running, Mom. She disappeared into the alley and I couldn't find her again. The lawyer shot up, panic written across his face. Dropped the will? Where is it now? William reached into his suit pocket with trembling hands. He pulled out the folded document, the edges now crumpled and smeared with dirt. I grabbed it before it blew away. The lawyer snatched it, quickly smoothing the paper as if it were a newborn child. "Thank God," he muttered, clutching it tightly. "This will must stay safe until it's filed with the court again. If Linda gets her hands on it, she'll stop at nothing to destroy it." My heart was pounding too fast, but I forced myself to stand tall. My eyes scanned the crowd, neighbors, friends, even distant relatives, all staring at me, waiting for my reaction. Some looked relieved, others hungry for drama. I could feel their judgment like needles in my skin. I took a deep breath. "The will is safe," I said firmly, though inside I was shaking. That's all that matters right now. But the truth? That wasn't all that mattered. What mattered was my son, my William. The way he had hugged Linda, called her Mom, betrayed me so openly. And now, the way his eyes still darted nervously toward the door, as if hoping she'd return. I turned to him. "Why?" I whispered, low enough for only him to hear. "Why would you betray me like that?" He flinched, his lips pressed together. She was there for me when Dad wasn't. "You don't know, Mom. You don't understand." My heart cracked again. I wanted to scream at him, shake him, remind him of the nights I stayed awake nursing his fevers, the sacrifices I made so he could study, the meals I skipped so he could eat. Instead, I just looked into his eyes and said softly, "One day you will." The lawyer cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "We should end the service and secure the will immediately. Miss Linda may return, and if she does, she won't come empty-handed. She'll fight."
He was right.
I could almost feel her shadow lingering outside, plotting. But as the mourners began to leave, one woman approached me. It was Mrs. Caldwell, my neighbor of 20 years. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Margaret, I need to tell you something about Linda, something I should have told you long ago." I frowned. "What is it?" Mrs. Caldwell's eyes darted nervously around before she leaned closer. "Linda wasn't just your husband's mistress. She's been involved in other things. Dangerous things. I saw her meeting men late at night by the docks. And once," she swallowed, "once I saw your husband give her a briefcase. Cash, I think." He looked afraid. A chill swept over me. My Richard? Afraid of her? Could it be that Linda wasn't just a mistress, but something far worse? Before I could ask more, William returned to my side, his voice sharp. "Mom, stop listening to gossip. She's just jealous." But Mrs. Caldwell's eyes widened.
"No, William.
You don't understand. That woman isn't who you think she is." Her words clung to me as we left the church, the will secured tightly in the lawyer's briefcase. The night air felt heavy, pressing against my chest. The world seemed darker, as if warning me that this battle had only begun. Back at home, I sat alone in the living room while William locked himself in his room upstairs. The silence was loud, broken only by the ticking clock. I stared at Richard's photo on the mantel. The man I thought I knew, the man who betrayed me, and yet the man who still, in some way, had chosen me in the end. "Why, Richard?" I whispered. "Why did you drag us into this storm?" Suddenly, the doorbell rang.
Loud.
Aggressive. My stomach dropped. I wasn't expecting anyone. The lawyer had already left. The neighbors wouldn't dare come this late. Slowly, I stood and walked to the door. My hand shook as I reached for the knob. When I opened it, a chill swept through me. There, standing on the porch, was Linda. Her hair was wild, her makeup smeared, her eyes burning with fury. She didn't look like a grieving mistress anymore. She looked like a predator. "You think you've won, Margaret?" she hissed. "This is only the beginning. That won't save you. I'll make sure of it." And then, before I could respond, she leaned closer, her breath hot against my face. "Your husband owed me more than you'll ever know. And if you don't give me what's mine, I'll take something from you that you can never get back." My blood turned to ice. "Linda," I started, but she pressed a finger to my lips. "Sho," she whispered. "You'll see soon enough." Then she turned and walked into the darkness, her shadow vanishing into the night. I stood frozen in the doorway, my body trembling, my mind spinning with her words. What did Richard owe her? What did she mean by "take something from me"? And worst of all, did she mean William? I closed the door slowly, my fingers trembling against the wood. Linda's words echoed in my head. "I'll take something from you that you can never get back." I locked the door, double-bolted it, then pressed my back against it, sliding down until I sat on the floor. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. What did she mean? My home? My inheritance? Or worse, my son? The thought of William in Linda's hands made my blood run cold. I jumped when I heard footsteps on the stairs. William appeared, rubbing his eyes. He looked annoyed, not scared. "Mom, why are you sitting on the floor like that?" I struggled to find my voice. Linda was here. His face softened for a moment, then hardened again. "Did you chase her away? Why didn't you let her in?" "Let her in?" I almost screamed. "William, that woman just threatened me. Threatened us. Don't you see what she's doing? She's poisoning your mind, trying to destroy this family." But he shook his head. "You don't understand her. She cares for me, Mom. Sometimes more than you ever did." The words stabbed me like a knife. I wanted to shout, to remind him of every sacrifice I had made, but I swallowed the pain and said quietly, "One day, you'll know the truth." He stormed back upstairs, leaving me alone in the silence. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room chair with every light on, clutching the family Bible in one hand and staring at the front door, afraid Linda might return. By morning, my body ached with exhaustion, but my mind burned with determination. Linda wanted a war.
She would get one.
The lawyer came by with updates. "The will has been filed officially," he said, tapping his briefcase. "It's safe now. Linda can't touch it unless she proves fraud, which she can't." I wanted to believe him, but Linda's words haunted me. She didn't just want money. She wanted me broken. That afternoon, while I was in the kitchen boiling tea, I heard William laughing upstairs. It wasn't the laughter of a boy watching television or chatting with friends. No, it was softer, warmer. My stomach sank. I crept up the stairs and paused by his bedroom door. His voice was low but clear. "Yes, Linda, I know. I'll meet you tonight. Don't worry, I'll make sure she doesn't follow me." My chest tightened. My son, my only son, was planning to meet her behind my back. I bit my lip to stop myself from crying out. I couldn't let him know I was listening. I tiptoed back downstairs, my mind racing. Should I confront him? Should I stop him? Or should I follow him to see what Linda was planning? As night fell, William came down the stairs, dressed neatly, his hair combed. He glanced at me briefly, avoiding my eyes. "I'm going out for some air," he muttered. I forced a smile. "Don't stay out too late." But the moment the door closed behind him, I grabbed my coat and followed quietly into the darkness. I kept my distance, hiding behind trees and fences as he walked down the street. My heart raced with every step. The night was cold, the air heavy with danger. Finally, he turned down a narrow alley. I pressed myself against the corner wall, peeking around just enough to see. There she was, Linda, waiting in the shadows, her arms crossed, her red nails glinting under the streetlight. William walked straight into her embrace, and what she whispered into his ear made my blood run cold. "Tonight, we finish your mother. Tonight, we finish your mother." Her words sliced through the night air like a knife. I froze against the cold brick wall, my breath caught in my throat. My son, my William, leaned in closer to her, as if those venomous words didn't pierce his heart the way they did mine. He didn't flinch. He didn't argue. Instead, he whispered back, "How?" My knees almost gave out. My son wasn't just being manipulated. He was part of her plan. I clutched the corner of the wall, forcing myself to stay still. If they knew I was there, if they saw me, everything would unravel too soon. I had to hear more. Linda's voice was low, almost like a hiss. "Your mother has the will now. As long as she's alive, she controls everything. But if something were to happen, well, who else is next in line?" William's silence said everything. He knew. He was my only heir. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "Not here.
Not now."
"Meet me at the old docks after midnight," Linda continued. "We'll make sure she never stands in our way again."
My heart hammered in my chest.
They wanted to kill me. I stumbled back, my hand flying to my mouth to stop a scream. My whole body shook with fear, but inside that fear, a spark of steel rose up. They thought I was weak. They thought they could erase me. But they didn't know who I really was. I crept away, as quietly as I could, until their voices faded behind me. I walked fast, almost running, until I reached the safety of my front door. Once inside, I locked every bolt and leaned against the door, trembling. The clock on the wall ticked past 10. That gave me barely 2 hours before William would leave again. 2 hours before they carried out their plan. I sank into my chair and buried my face in my hands. My son, the boy I had raised, fed, clothed, loved, was plotting with the woman who had destroyed my marriage to destroy me too. How could love twist into betrayal so quickly? I could have called the police. I could have begged the lawyer for help. But deep down, I knew the truth. Nobody would believe me without proof. And if I wasn't careful, Linda would turn it all back on me, painting me as the bitter widow, the crazy old woman.
No.
I had to fight this battle myself. By midnight, I was dressed in dark clothes, my hair tied back, my Bible tucked inside my coat pocket like a shield. I wasn't sure why I carried it, but it felt like the only weapon I could trust besides my own wits. When William finally slipped out of the house, I followed him again, staying farther back this time. His steps were quick, determined, like someone walking toward destiny. The night was colder now, the air heavy with salt from the nearby bay. I knew exactly where he was going, the docks. They were abandoned years ago after a fire, now nothing but rotting wood and shadows. A perfect place for something terrible to happen. As I approached, I crouched behind a stack of rusted barrels. From there, I could see them. Linda and William, standing at the edge of the pier, the black water rippling beneath them. Linda's coat flapped in the wind like dark wings. She held something in her hand, something metallic. My stomach twisted when the moonlight revealed what it was. A gun. I clutched the barrels to steady myself, my breath coming in short gasps. "Are you ready?" Linda asked, her voice sharp. William hesitated, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. I don't know Linda. She's still my mom." Linda grabbed his chin, forcing him to look at her. "She's nothing but an obstacle. She's had control over you your whole life. Don't you see? Once she's gone, everything is yours. You'll finally be free." William's jaw tightened. "And what about you?" Linda smirked. "With you, of course. We'll share everything. Power, money, the house, the land. It's all waiting for us. But only if you're strong enough. I wanted to scream at him to wake up, to see her lies for what they were. But I stayed silent, hidden in the shadows, praying he would resist her poison. Then Linda raised the gun and pressed it into William's hands. My heart stopped. "Do it yourself," she whispered. "It'll prove you're not weak." William's hands shook as he stared at the weapon. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Finally, he whispered, I can't." Linda's smile vanished, her eyes narrowing like a predator. "Then I'll do it for you." Before I could move, she snatched the gun back and spun around, pointing it directly at the shadows where I hid. "Come out, Margaret," she hissed. "I know you're here." My blood froze. How had she known? I stepped out slowly, my hands raised. The cold air stung my skin, but it was nothing compared to the icy dread in my chest. William's eyes widened. "Mom?" I looked at him, my voice breaking. "Is this what you want, William? To stand beside her while she kills your own mother?" He looked torn, caught between us, his hands trembling. But Linda only laughed, her finger tightening on the trigger. "This ends tonight," she said. The sound of the gunshot split the night. The gunshot cracked through the night, echoing over the dark water. For a split second, I thought the world had ended. My ears rang, my knees buckled, and I clutched my chest, waiting for pain to tear through me. But it didn't. I opened my eyes, heart hammering, and saw William standing in front of me, his arms outstretched. The bullet had missed me. "Mom," he gasped, his voice raw. Linda's furious scream cut him off. "You idiot!" She raised the gun again, her face twisted with rage. "You were supposed to be mine." Her hand shook as she aimed, but this time William didn't hesitate. He lunged at her, grabbing her wrist. The gun fired again, the shot flying into the sky. Seagulls startled from their nests, crying out as they scattered. I stood frozen, watching my son wrestle the woman who had poisoned his heart. They struggled violently, their silhouettes shifting against the moonlit pier. The gun clattered to the ground, sliding across the wooden planks toward me. I didn't think, I ran. My hands closed around the cold metal, heavy and terrifying. For the first time in my life, I held a weapon meant to kill. William and Linda were still locked together, her nails clawing at his face, his arms straining to hold her back. She screamed curses, spitting hatred with every breath. "William," I shouted. My voice broke through the chaos. "Move." He shoved her off just as Linda lunged again. Without thinking, I lifted the gun and aimed. My hands shook violently, my finger hovering over the trigger. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't take a life. Even hers. Linda's eyes locked on me, realizing my hesitation. She smiled, a wicked grin. "You don't have the strength, old woman," she hissed. She snatched a broken plank from the pier, raising it like a club. I froze, trapped between fear and love, not knowing what to do. And then it happened. William, breathing hard, grabbed the plank before she could swing it. With one desperate push, he shoved her backward. Her heels slipped against the rotting wood. For a split second, her arms flailed in the air. Her eyes widened in horror. And then, she fell. The sound of her scream carried into the darkness as her body plunged into the black water below. Silence followed. The waves swallowed her whole, leaving nothing but ripples. William stood there, panting, staring into the water. I dropped the gun, my hands shaking uncontrollably. "Is she?" I whispered, my throat dry. "Is she gone?" He didn't answer. His face was pale, his eyes empty. Then the silence broke, the sound of water splashing, faint but steady. Linda was still alive. Her head bobbed above the surface, her hair plastered to her face, her voice hoarse but filled with fury. "You'll regret this," she screamed, her words echoing into the night. "Both of you will pay." Her voice echoed across the dock, haunting and furious. "Both of you will pay." Linda's head bobbed above the black water, her arms flailing wildly as she fought against the current. The night swallowed her scream, but the threat lingered like poison in the air. I stood frozen, my whole body trembling. Part of me wanted to reach for her, to extend a hand like any decent human would do, for another life. But another part of me, the part that remembered her smirk at my husband's funeral, her claws wrapped around my son, knew that helping her meant inviting death into my home. William staggered forward, his eyes wide. "Mom, we can't just let her drown. After everything she's done?" My voice cracked. "She would have killed me tonight, William. She would have killed both of us." But he shook his head, guilt carving lines into his young face. "I pushed her. If she dies, it's on me. Do you understand? It'll be my fault." For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw my son's innocence peeking through the fog Linda had cast over him. He wasn't heartless, he was lost.
Confused.
Torn between the mother who raised him and the woman who poisoned him. Before I could respond, Linda's voice shrieked again, weaker this time. "Help me, William." And like a knife twisting in my chest, I saw his body move instinctively toward the edge of the dock. "Don't," I cried, grabbing his arm. My grip was firm, my eyes locked on his. "She's dragging you into her trap. She doesn't want saving, she wants control. If you go down there, she'll pull you under with her." William's jaw tightened. His chest rose and fell rapidly as he glanced between me and the splashing water. Finally, his body sagged under the weight of my grip. He dropped to his knees on the pier, clutching his head. "What do we do then?" I looked at the dark water, my heart heavy. Linda's thrashing slowed, her cries becoming faint. Then, suddenly, she disappeared beneath the surface. We both gasped, our eyes scanning the ripples, waiting for her to resurface. Seconds passed. Long, agonizing seconds. And then nothing. Only the waves lapping against the wood. "She's gone," I whispered, my voice shaky. The water took her. William buried his face in his hands. Dear God. But deep down, I wasn't so sure. Linda wasn't the kind of woman who went quietly. If there was breath left in her body, she'd find a way to crawl back. I placed my hand on William's shoulder. "Listen to me. If she's alive, she'll come back angrier than ever. If she's gone, then her shadow will haunt us all the same. Either way, we need to prepare." He looked up at me, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Mom, I didn't mean for any of this.
I thought she cared about me."
She said things you never did, things I wanted to hear. My heart broke again, but this time softer. I reached out, cupping his cheek. "Son, I may not have said it the way she did, but everything I've ever done was out of love for you. She gave you sweet words. I gave you my life." For the first time, his eyes softened toward me. He nodded slowly, his lips parting as if to speak, when suddenly, a sound shattered the fragile moment. A cough. Both of us whipped around toward the water. At first, there was nothing. Then, faintly, a head broke the surface again, clinging to one of the dock's support beams. Linda. Her face was pale, her eyes blazing like fire. She spat out water and screamed, her voice hoarse, but filled with venom. "You think you're safe? You think this ends here? No, Margaret. I'll take everything from you. Your son, your home, your peace. And when I'm finished, you'll beg me for death." William scrambled to his feet, panic flashing in his eyes. "She's still alive." I pulled him back, my voice sharp. "Stay away from her. Let her crawl back to the darkness where she belongs." But Linda laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the night. "You can't stop me. You've only made me stronger. You'll see me again, Margaret, when you least expect it." And then, with terrifying determination, she disappeared beneath the water once more, vanishing into the shadows of the bay. The silence that followed was heavier than before. My son clutched my arm, his whole body trembling. "She's not dead, Mom. She's out there somewhere. And she's coming for us." I nodded slowly, my heart sinking like a stone. "I know." We left the docks in silence, our footsteps echoing against the empty streets. Every shadow seemed alive, every gust of wind carried her whisper. I could feel her presence even in her absence, like a curse tied around my neck. Back at the house, I double-locked every door, every window. William sat at the kitchen table, his head buried in his arms. He looked like a boy again. Not a man who had almost betrayed his mother, but a child lost in a storm. I poured us both tea, my hands still shaking. Neither of us spoke. The only sound was the clock ticking, each second heavier than the last. Finally, William looked up, his voice small. "Mom, what if she comes back? What if she tries again?" I met his gaze, my voice steady even though fear gripped me inside. "Then we'll be ready. She may think she's the predator, but she doesn't know who she's hunting. We will fight back, together." It was the first time I saw resolve in his eyes, a flicker of the boy I raised. He nodded, but even as I spoke those words, I knew the truth. Linda wasn't finished. And when she came back, she wouldn't come alone. Because as I looked out the window, into the darkness of the street, I saw movement. A shadow. A figure standing still beneath the lamppost, watching our house. And when the light flickered, I realized it wasn't just one figure. There were three. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight as I peered through the curtains. Not one, not two, but three shadowy figures stood under the flickering lamppost. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They just watched. "Mom?" William's voice cracked behind me. He had noticed the way I froze at the window. "What is it?" I closed the curtain quickly and turned to him, forcing calm into my voice. "Nothing. Just the wind." But I knew it wasn't the wind. The air felt heavier, darker, charged with something sinister. Linda wasn't gone. She was out there plotting, and she wasn't alone. I ushered William upstairs. "You need rest," I said firmly. "Your mind has been through enough tonight." He resisted, his eyes sharp with suspicion. "You're hiding something." I touched his shoulder, steadying him. "I'm protecting you. That's all you need to know right now." Eventually, exhaustion weighed him down. He climbed the stairs and shut his bedroom door. I waited until I heard his bed creak before slipping back to the window. The figures were still there, watching. I stood in the dark living room, my fists clenched, forcing myself to stay calm. Panic would only make me weak. If Linda thought she could scare me into breaking, she had underestimated me. Hours passed, the clock ticking into the early morning. Finally, as dawn's light crept across the street, the figures melted away like mist. But my gut told me this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. By afternoon, I decided to confide in the lawyer. I drove to his office, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. When I explained what I'd seen, he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "Linda has nothing legal to stand on anymore," he said. "But if she's desperate, she might turn to intimidation. You need protection." "Protection?" I frowned. He nodded. "A restraining order. Security cameras. Maybe even the police." I sighed. The police won't believe a 72-year-old widow with a story about shadowy figures outside her house. They'll think I'm paranoid. The lawyer leaned forward, his tone softer. "Then don't wait until something happens. Be smart. Be prepared." I nodded, though my heart was restless. Being prepared felt too small against the storm I knew Linda was building. When I returned home, William was sitting on the porch steps, his face pale. "Mom," he said, his voice shaking. "I need to tell you something." My stomach sank. "What is it?" He hesitated, then whispered, "I think Linda's been following me. Even before the funeral. I'd see her car parked near my job, near the gym. Sometimes she'd just smile and wave.
I thought it meant she cared about me. But now, I'm scared."
For the first time, my son's words weren't filled with defiance. They were filled with fear. He was finally seeing the truth. I knelt beside him, taking his hand. "William, listen to me. Whatever happens, you stay close to me. She can't hurt us if we stand together." He nodded, though his eyes still darted nervously toward the street. That night, I set up old lamps near the windows, keeping the house lit like a beacon. I sat in the living room chair with the Bible open on my lap, whispering prayers under my breath. William fell asleep on the couch, exhausted. Around midnight, the sound came.
Tap, tap, tap.
The unmistakable noise of pebbles hitting glass. My blood turned cold. Slowly, I stood and moved to the front window. My heart sank as I pulled the curtain back just enough to see. Linda stood on the street, soaking wet, her hair plastered to her face. She looked like she had crawled straight out of the bay, her eyes wild, her lips curled in a twisted smile. And beside her, two men, broad-shouldered, looming, their faces hidden in the shadows. My hand flew to my mouth. She wasn't just back. She had brought reinforcements. The pounding on the door rattled the whole house. William shot upright, his eyes wide with panic. "Who's there?" he whispered, though he already knew. I didn't answer. My body pressed against the wall, heart hammering as the thuds came again. Louder this time, angrier. "Open the door, Margaret." Linda's voice screeched through the wood, raspy but strong. "You can't hide from me forever." William stumbled toward the entryway, but I grabbed his arm, yanking him back. "Don't you dare touch that handle," I hissed. "That's what she wants." His breathing was ragged. "What if they break it down? Then we fight," I said, my voice trembling yet fierce. The banging stopped suddenly. Silence filled the room, thick and terrifying. William and I exchanged a glance. Then crunch. The sound of boots on gravel. The scrape of metal against the window frame. "They're trying the windows," I whispered. William's face drained of color. "Mom, we need to call the police." I grabbed the phone from the side table and dialed, my fingers shaking. But before the operator could answer, a crash exploded from the back of the house, the shattering of glass. "They're inside," William shouted. I dropped the phone and grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the stairs. "Upstairs. Now." We sprinted, my legs burning as we took 2 steps at a time. I shoved him into my bedroom, slamming the door behind us and locking it. My chest heaved as I pressed my ear against the wood, listening. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. The sound of drawers opening, furniture scraping. They were searching the house like wolves hunting prey. "Mom," William whispered, his voice shaking. "What do they want?" I swallowed hard, looking him straight in the eyes.
You. Me.
"Everything your father left behind. But most of all, control." He clenched his fists. "I won't let them take us." I felt a surge of pride, mixed with dread. He was finally seeing Linda for what she was. But he was also ready to fight, and that terrified me. Downstairs, Linda's voice echoed through the halls. "Come out, Margaret. Stop hiding. Let's end this tonight." Her laughter followed, cold and sharp, crawling under my skin. William reached under my bed and pulled out the old wooden baseball bat his father had bought him when he was 12. He gripped it tightly, his knuckles white. "If they come in here, I'll protect you." I touched his arm, my eyes glistening.
No, son.
"If they come in here, we protect each other." The footsteps grew louder, climbing the stairs. Each creak of the floorboards sent chills racing through my spine. They were coming. I glanced around the room, searching for anything we could use. My eyes landed on the heavy lamp on the nightstand. I grabbed it, the cord dangling as I held it like a weapon. The doorknob rattled. "Margaret," Linda's voice purred. "Too calm. Why make this harder? Open the door, and we can talk." "Talking is over," I shouted, my voice shaking but strong. "Leave now, or you'll regret it." She laughed, low and sinister. "You always were stubborn. That's why he strayed. That's why he came to me." Her words stabbed deep, but I forced myself not to falter. "He came back to me. That's what you'll never accept." The doorknob twisted violently, then slammed. The whole frame shook. William raised the bat higher, his teeth gritted. "Mom," he whispered, "they're going to break it." And then it happened. With a splintering crack, the door burst open. Linda stood in the doorway, her wet hair clinging to her face, her eyes wild with fury. Behind her, the two men loomed like shadows. "There you are," she sneered. William swung the bat with all his strength. It connected with one of the men's shoulders, and he roared in pain, stumbling back. I lunged forward with the lamp, smashing it across the other's arm. The bulb shattered, sparks flying. For a moment, chaos reigned. The men cursing, William swinging again, me holding the jagged lamp base like a blade. Then Linda stepped closer, her eyes locked on me. "This ends tonight," she hissed. Before I could react, she shoved me hard. I fell back against the bed, the breath knocked from my lungs. William screamed, charging at her, but one of the men grabbed him by the neck, lifting him off his feet. My son's face turned red as he struggled for air. "Stop," I cried, scrambling to my feet. "Let him go." Linda smirked, her lips curling in triumph. "Say you give up. Say you'll hand everything over to me. Do that and maybe your son lives." My heart pounded. I could barely breathe. My son's life dangled before me, his legs kicking, his face desperate. I felt the jagged lamp base in my hand, its sharp edge glinting. My mind screamed at me to act, to fight, but fear froze me. Linda leaned closer, her eyes burning into mine.
"Well,
"What's it going to be, Margaret? Your pride or your son?" The room spun. My grip tightened around the weapon. Sweat trickled down my forehead. And then I made my choice. With every ounce of strength left in me, I raised the lamp base high and lunged. I didn't think, I just acted. The jagged lamp base plunged forward, catching the man's arm that was strangling William. A deep cut split his skin, and he howled in pain, dropping my son to the floor. William gasped, clutching his throat, sucking in air like it was the most precious thing in the world. Fury lit his eyes as he scrambled back up, baseball bat in hand. Before the man could recover, William swung again. The bat cracked against his ribs, sending him crashing into the dresser. "Stay away from my mother," he roared. The second man lunged at me, but I ducked, adrenaline guiding my movements. My knees screamed with pain, but I ignored it. He swung a fist, grazing my shoulder, and I thrust the sharp lamp edge forward. This time it slashed across his cheek. Blood streamed down, and his roar shook the walls. Linda stood frozen for a moment, her smirk gone, her eyes wide as she watched her muscle crumble before us. Then her fury returned tenfold. She lunged at me, nails outstretched like claws. "You should have stayed down, old woman," she shrieked. Her weight knocked me backward onto the bed. Her hands clamped around my throat, squeezing, her face inches from mine, dripping with hatred. I gasped, clawing at her wrists, my lungs burning. Spots danced before my eyes. And then, with a shout, William swung the bat. It slammed into Linda's side, and she toppled off me with a scream. I rolled off the bed, coughing, my chest on fire. William grabbed my hand, pulling me up. "Mom, are you okay?" I nodded weakly, though my voice was hoarse. "I'm fine, keep fighting." The two men were staggering now, both bleeding, both furious but shaken. One of them cursed and pulled Linda to her feet. She clutched her ribs, glaring at me with a hatred so sharp it cut deeper than any blade. "This isn't over," she spat. Her voice was ragged, but her resolve was terrifying. "You've made enemies you can't escape, Margaret. I'll destroy you piece by piece." And with that, she shoved past the men, retreating down the hall. Their heavy boots thundered after her, the sound fading into the night. For a long moment, the house was silent again, except for the sound of our breathing. William dropped the bat, his hands trembling. "They'll come back. You know they will." I sank onto the bed, clutching my chest.
yes."
And next time, they won't just try to scare us. They'll come to finish it. We sat in the wrecked bedroom, surrounded by broken glass, blood on the floor, furniture overturned. But inside me, something had changed. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was ready to fight. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning of a war Linda had declared. The house looked like a battlefield. Shattered glass glittered on the carpet. The dresser leaned sideways, one drawer hanging like a broken jaw. Blood smeared the floor where Linda's men had stumbled. My bedroom, once a place of peace, now felt like a war zone. I sat on the edge of the bed, breathing deeply, the jagged lamp base still in my hand. William paced the room like a caged animal, his fists clenching and unclenching. "They'll be back," he muttered, his voice sharp with anger. "We can't just sit here waiting." I nodded. "You're right. They won't stop until they think they've broken us." "But William," I touched his arm gently, "we are not broken." For the first time in weeks, his eyes softened toward me. He sat beside me, dropping his head into his hands. "I almost lost you tonight. If I hadn't." "You didn't lose me," I interrupted firmly. "And you won't. Not if we stand together." The silence stretched between us, heavy but healing. Then I stood, my body stiff, but my mind clear. "We need to prepare. No more waiting for Linda to strike. We'll protect ourselves, and if she comes again, she won't find easy prey." By morning, we set to work. William went to the hardware store, returning with thick locks, wooden boards, and even motion sensor lights. Together, we reinforced every door and window. He hammered, I held the nails. My hands ached, my back screamed, but I kept moving. Every strike of the hammer felt like a declaration. We will not be victims. By the time the sun dipped low, the house had transformed into a fortress. The windows were secured, the doors double-locked, cameras blinking red at every corner. For the first time in days, I breathed easier. Still, I knew defenses alone wouldn't be enough. Linda was clever, manipulative. She thrived in shadows. If we wanted to end this, we needed to understand her, truly understand her. That evening, I pulled out an old box from the closet, one I hadn't touched in years. Inside were papers, photographs, bits of history my husband had left behind. William watched curiously as I sifted through them. "What are you looking for?" he asked. "Answers," I said quietly. "Your father never talked much about Linda. But she didn't just appear out of nowhere. She had a past with him, long before you were old enough to notice." William frowned. "You think he kept something from us?" I didn't answer immediately. My hands trembled as I pulled out a yellowed envelope, sealed and tucked between old tax records. On the front, in my husband's handwriting, were the words, "For Margaret, if she ever needs the truth." My throat tightened. With careful fingers, I opened it. Inside was a letter. I began to read aloud. "Margaret, if you're reading this, it means my mistakes have found their way back into your life. I never wanted you to face her wrath, but I know Linda. She's not just a woman scorned. She's dangerous. Years ago, long before I married you, Linda was involved with men who ran more than just businesses. She knew how to use people, how to blackmail, how to twist hearts for her gain. I thought I could escape her, but she always found a way back. If she ever resurfaces, protect yourself. Protect our son. Don't trust her, and don't underestimate her. She will stop at nothing." The words blurred as tears welled in my eyes. My husband had known. He had tried to warn me, even after death. William sat back, stunned. "She wasn't just after him. She's been playing this game her whole life." I nodded slowly, the weight of the truth pressing down on me. "She's not just jealous or angry. She's built her entire life on destruction. We're not her first victims, but maybe we'll be her last." William's fists tightened. "Then we fight smarter. We find out everything we can about her. If she has a past full of crimes, there has to be proof. Something we can use against her." For the first time, his words didn't carry anger. They carried determination. I placed the letter back in the box and met his eyes. "Then, that's what we'll do. We'll dig into her past. And when she comes for us again, we'll be ready. Not just with locks and bats, but with truth." That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. The creak of the house, the hum of the refrigerator, the rustle of branches outside. But beneath the fear, there was resolve. Linda wasn't invincible. She wasn't unstoppable. She was a woman with a past, and we would uncover it. At dawn, William and I drove to the county records office. The clerk gave us odd looks as we combed through old files, but hours later, we found it, a stack of documents tied to Linda's name.
Fraud.
Embezzlement. Lawsuits quietly dropped. Associates who had vanished without explanation. But one record froze me cold. A police report from 15 years ago. The words jumped off the page.
Suspect.
Linda Hayes. Accusation. Suspected involvement in the disappearance of a former partner. Case closed due to lack of evidence. My hands shook. I stared at the paper, my heart racing. She's done this before, I whispered. She's destroyed people before. William leaned closer, his face pale. And she'll do it again if we don't stop her. As I folded the document, a chill swept over me. Linda wasn't just after revenge. She was repeating a cycle, one she had perfected over years. And now, she had set her sights on us. We left the records office with a file thick enough to bury her. Yet, as we stepped out into the daylight, I felt eyes watching us. Across the street, parked under a tree, was a familiar car.
Dark.
Windows tinted. And in the driver's seat, Linda. She rolled the window down slowly, her smile cold, her eyes locked on us. Then she lifted her hand and waved. Not a friendly wave. A promise. Mom, William whispered, his voice trembling. She knows. I clutched the file to my chest, my breath quickening. Yes, I said, never looking away from her. And now the war has truly begun. Linda's wave haunted me the entire drive home. It wasn't casual. It wasn't mocking. It was calculated, like a hunter acknowledging her prey before the chase. William gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. She's not even hiding anymore, Mom. She wants us to know she's watching. She's trying to scare us, I replied, though my own stomach churned with unease. Fear is her weapon. If we let it control us, she's already won. But as soon as we pulled into the driveway, we saw the evidence of her escalation. Our mailbox hung open, stuffed with photographs. William yanked them out, his face hardening with each one. Pictures of us. Leaving the house. At the grocery store. Sitting on the porch. Even one of me in the kitchen through the window. She's been following us everywhere, William whispered, his voice trembling with anger. We're being hunted. I snatched the stack from his hand and flipped through them. On the back of the last photo, written in bold red marker, were 3 words. You can't hide. A chill slithered down my spine. That evening, I locked the photos away in the box with my husband's letter. But William couldn't sit still. He paced the living room, his fists clenched. We have proof now, of her stalking us, of her crimes. We need to go to the police. I shook my head, exhaustion heavy in my bones. The police already closed one case against her. She knows how to slip through their fingers. We need something stronger, something that ties her down so tightly she can't escape. He stopped pacing, his eyes narrowing. Like what? Before I could answer, a sharp knock rattled the front door. Both of us froze. Another knock followed, louder this time. William grabbed the bat again, his eyes darting to me. It's her. I shook my head, trying to steady my breathing. No, she wouldn't knock. She breaks in. I inched toward the door, my hands trembling, and peered through the peephole. Relief and dread crashed together in my chest. It wasn't Linda. It was a police officer. I unlocked the door slowly, opening it just a crack. Yes, officer? The man tipped his hat politely, his expression unreadable. Ma'am, we received a call. Someone reported shouting and violence at this address last night. Said there might have been an assault. My blood ran cold. My eyes darted to William, then back to the officer. Who called? I asked. He hesitated, then said softly, a woman named Linda Hayes. William's face twisted with rage. She's setting us up. And in that moment, I knew the truth. Linda wasn't just stalking us anymore. She was laying a trap. The officer stepped inside, his boots echoing against the wooden floor. His eyes scanned the room, the overturned furniture, the broken glass we hadn't finished cleaning up, and the faint smear of blood near the dresser. His jaw tightened. Looks like there was trouble here, he said slowly. William stepped forward, his voice sharp. We were attacked. Linda broke in with 2 men. They tried to kill us. The officer's brows furrowed. That's a serious claim, son. Do you have proof? I opened my mouth, then shut it again. Proof. We had the photographs she left, the records of her past crimes. But none of that showed what happened in this house last night. Linda had been careful. Too careful. Listen, I said firmly, forcing calm into my voice. Linda Hayes is dangerous. She's been following us, threatening us. She left these. I handed him the stack of photographs from the mailbox. He flipped through them, his expression unreadable. Stalking's a crime, but these don't prove she broke in. Do you have video footage? Security cameras? My stomach sank. We had installed the cameras yesterday, but we hadn't set them up yet. No, I admitted quietly. The officer sighed, closing the file of photos. Mrs. Carter, your neighbor also reported hearing shouting. And, according to Miss Hayes, she claims you attacked her. Said you were unstable. Violent. William's jaw dropped. That's a lie. But the officer held up a hand. I'm not saying I believe her. I'm saying we have 2 very different stories. And right now, hers is the only one on record. Rage boiled inside me. Linda wasn't just circling us. She was pulling the law into her web. Officer, I said, my voice low but steady. She's trying to trap us. My husband warned me in writing. He said she has a history with the law. There are records. Check them. He studied me carefully, then nodded. I'll look into it. But until then, I suggest you both stay calm. If Miss Hayes presses charges, things could get complicated. When he finally left, silence fell heavy in the room. William slammed his fist on the table. She's flipping everything on us. If the police start believing her, we could lose everything. I sank into the chair, my hands trembling. That's her game. She knows how to twist the truth. But William, we can't panic. Panic is what she wants. He paced, his voice cracking. What do we do? Just sit here and wait for them to drag you off in handcuffs. No, I said firmly, my eyes locking on his. We get ahead of her. We gather everything, every file, every record, every witness. If the police won't see her for who she is, then we'll make them see. William's breathing steadied. He nodded slowly. Then we fight her with truth. I reached across the table, squeezing his hand, and we fight together. But even as I spoke, a chill prickled my skin, because deep down I knew Linda wasn't finished. She had played her first card, and it was strong. The next one would be even stronger. And when it came, it might destroy us. The morning sun barely broke through the clouds when I woke to the sound of a car door slamming outside. My heart skipped. For a moment, I thought it was Linda again, back to taunt us. But when I peered through the curtains, I saw a police cruiser parked at the curb. Mom, William said groggily, rubbing his eyes. He had fallen asleep in the chair near the window, the baseball bat still resting by his side. When he saw the cruiser, he jumped to his feet. Why are they back? I didn't answer. A heavy knock shook the front door. When I opened it, 2 officers stood there, different ones this time. One held a folder in his hand, his face expressionless. Mrs. Carter? He asked. Yes. My voice quivered despite my effort to stay calm. He glanced down at the folder, then back up at me. We have a warrant to search your home. Miss Hayes filed a report claiming you assaulted her and destroyed property. William's voice exploded before I could respond. What? That's insane. She's the one who broke in here. The officer raised a hand. Sir, calm down. This is procedure. I swallowed hard, forcing my shaking hands to stay steady. Do what you need to do. We have nothing to hide. But as they stepped inside, I realized with horror that Linda had timed this perfectly. The house still bore the scars of last night's attack. The broken glass, the overturned dresser, the smeared blood. To anyone unfamiliar with the truth, it looked like chaos we had created ourselves. The officers walked through each room, scribbling notes, taking photographs. One of them stopped at the shattered window in the back. Looks like it was broken from the inside, he muttered. That's because she climbed in, William snapped. I was here. I saw it. But the officer's skeptical look made my stomach twist. I pulled out the box with my husband's letter and Linda's old records. Please, look at these. She has a history of fraud, of violence. My husband warned me about her. The lead officer flipped through the papers briefly, then shook his head. These aren't convictions, ma'am. Just accusations. Drop charges. Old reports. They won't hold up in court. My hands trembled as I clutched the box to my chest. So, what? You'll believe her lies over us? We're not here to judge, he replied evenly. We're here to collect evidence. Hours passed before they finally left. William slammed the door behind them, pacing like a storm trapped in a cage. She's setting us up. Little by little, she's painting us as the villains. And the police are falling for it. I sank into the chair, exhaustion heavy in my bones. That's her strategy. She doesn't need to hurt us physically. If she can ruin our names, take away our credibility, she wins without lifting a finger. William stopped pacing, his eyes burning with determination. Then we need a new strategy. We can't just defend ourselves, we need to strike first. If the police won't listen, we go higher. Media, lawyers, anyone who'll hear us. His words lit something inside me. He was right. Linda thrived in shadows. But if we dragged her into the light, maybe her mask would finally crack. That night, as we sat at the kitchen table, I spread Linda's file across the surface. Each page was a piece of the puzzle: fraud reports, embezzlement claims, the police record of the missing man. William leaned over, tapping the last one. This is it. The disappearance. If we can find someone, anyone, who remembers that case, maybe we'll have the truth we need. The idea both terrified and excited me. Digging into Linda's past meant walking straight into danger. But we had no choice. Before bed, I double-checked every lock, every light, every camera. Still, sleep didn't come easily. My dreams were filled with Linda's face, smiling, mocking, whispering that she was always one step ahead. I woke in the middle of the night to a sound. Not the creak of the house this time, but something sharper. Paper. I sat up, my heart racing. On the nightstand sat the file of Linda's records. Only now a new page rested on top. It hadn't been there before. My blood turned to ice as I read the words written in thick red ink across the blank sheet. You can dig into my past, Margaret, but you'll find your son's name there too. I gasped, clutching the paper, my mind spinning. William stirred, his eyes snapping open when he saw my face. What is it? He whispered. I handed him the page, with trembling hands. His jaw dropped, his face pale. She's trying to drag me into this, he muttered. But how? I swallowed, my heart pounding in my ears. She doesn't just want to destroy me. She wants to use you to do it. And in that moment, I realized Linda's deadliest weapon wasn't her fists, her threats, or even her lies. It was my son. The final confrontation came sooner than I expected. Linda cornered us in the lawyer's office, her smile sharp as glass. She thought she had won. The forged reports, the false police calls, the carefully spun lies. She believed they had buried us for good. But when the lawyer opened his folder, the color drained from her face. We had uncovered the missing man's case, tied directly to her through witnesses and records she thought destroyed. William and I had worked day and night, and now the evidence stood like a mountain she couldn't climb. This time, the lawyer said firmly, there's no escaping the truth. Linda's mask cracked. For the first time, she looked afraid. Officers waiting in the hall stepped in, handcuffing her as she spat curses at me. William slipped his arm around my shoulders. We did it, Mom. Together. I looked at him, tears burning my eyes.
No, son.
Truth did it. Lies may dance for a while, but they always fall. Viewers, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notification button for more upcoming interesting stories. Tell me, where in the country are you watching from? Because this story's lesson is simple. Evil thrives in darkness, but it cannot outrun the light.